Well, welcome. Another edition of Greater Dayton Live. I'm Dan Edwards from the new Soft Rock 92.9 WGTZ. Thank you so much for joining us. And boy, we're getting excited now. The Veteran Dayton Air Show presented by Kroger is right around the corner, and we can't wait to share some of the great acts that are coming. And to do so, we have invited Chairman of the Veteran Dayton Air Show presented by Kroger, Mike Emoff, to join us today. Welcome to Greater Dayton
Thank you, Dan.
Live, Michael.
It's great to be here.
Good to see you again,
Thank
buddy.
you.
Great. You got your shirt on?
I've got my shirt on,
man.
vintage 2007.
You're looking good. You're looking very official today.
Thank you.
And you've got to be happy with the way that this has turned out. Now, it's June 18th and 19th. That's something I'm sure we everybody know. And that is, the 19th is Father's Day.
It is.
And so I think that's kind of a nice touch, isn't it, each weekend?
I have a feeling about it. I know that last year we had a Father's Day weekend show.
Right.
Sunday was the Father's Day event. Saturday we had some rain, and so we did have a pretty big crowd on Sunday. The weather was perfect. And I got to tell you, if I'm a father and I get surprised by that, by my family, I'm having a really good day. And the air show this year is going to be really good.
Yeah. Let's talk about you being a father. You have been involved with this. You and your family have been involved with this for many, many years. How many years have
This will
been involved?
This will be my 12th year as the chair of the show, and I became involved in 2000, so 16 years on the board, and understand everything about the show. For me and for the board, it's our responsibility to make sure that we can continue to do shows. So financial, fiscal responsibility, and sustainability is our role. We have a management company, and we've had a couple management companies over the span of my tenure, and they do the work. They know what they're doing. It's a very safe show, and they spend a lot of time making sure that everything is perfect, which makes it good for people like me and the board.
Well, like you and your family.
And the family, yes.
And tell me, as a father, you'll be there that day. What's it mean for you to be able to not only to share this show with the Dayton region and the world, actually, but also with your family, because you bring the kids out and you have a good time?
I do, and I encourage my friends to bring their kids too, and we make it a picnic.
Yeah.
So it's a family event that is peppered with entertainment. So imagine going to a theme park, knowing a lot of people, and having a scheduled event where you can actually sit down and have lunch with your family, you can have lunch with your friends, you can see things you could never see before, and almost nowhere else can you see a lot of the things we do at the air show, if you look at everything in the country and all the things you can do. And the bonding, in my life at least, has become very much attached to the air show. So my son, who was 9, was there when he was 2 weeks old, his first air show. He's not missed an air show since then. This is air show season for him. He doesn't know any different, and he looks forward to it, and it's a very positive time and educational time for him and the family.
Leading up to the air show, Mike, can you take me through the process of how you choose the acts that are going to fly in Dayton skies?
I sure can. I'll take you through the process from the beginning, and the beginning starts the day after the air show ends, the year before. So we meet as a board, we talk about the budget, we look at how we did on the show before. We're planning literally the day after the air show for the next year. And as we plan for that, we look at ways that we could have done better. We look for acts that we want to get. We put those onto a prospectus, and we go after basically those acts like you would procure anything. So some of the acts are more expensive than others. The air show, as I think most people know, it's a paid air show to come in, unlike some air shows that aren't quite at the level we're at, that may be put on by a city, for example. And so we have to budget very carefully, so having everything we want is not always possible. But putting it together to have something that is impressive enough that we are still in Dayton here, we're very fortunate. We have an air show that's revered by many other areas, clearly. And we try every year to put an air show out to the community that is the best in the industry. And so as we look for these acts that are out there, we know most of them, but occasionally there's a show, a trade show, an industry trade show called ICAST, the International Council of Air Shows. And at that event, there is a trade event where the acts are presenting what they can do, and they want to be in our show. Our show is like the #1 show for all of the acts. So we choose very carefully who we want to have, and we balance it in a way that gives you everything from the span of early flight to today's best. And we're fortunate this year, and the last couple of years it's been moving in this direction. We're able to get some of the military that was on sequestration and unable to attend. So for example, this year we have an amazing static display from the Navy, and we have the Navy Blue Angels flying. So, and we'll talk more about that. But we've got a very broad spectrum of on the ground and in the air in terms of acts, and then a lot in between.
You have to feel somewhat lucky that through sequestration, some of these other air shows didn't make it. And the Veteran Dayton Air Show has been there, continues to grow. How difficult was it going through that process?
Well, I would say, Dan, that Dayton, as an aviation heritage region, we were positioned a little differently than most of the other air shows that were for-profit or not-for-profit that were out there in the marketplace. And by that I mean the support that we get from Wright-Patt Air Force Base has been tremendous, and it always has been. And the region and tied to aviation and that heritage together make Dayton the place that if there were acts available, they were willing to come to us for a lesser price in the time where we couldn't afford them. And our objective as a board, again, is to make sure that we can sustain and bring an air show to our community. And by the way, our community stretches very far. It's more regional than it is just in the Miami Valley, which is unlike a lot of air shows, by the way. So we were able to do very well in the early years. We were fiscally very careful about how we manage our funds that we have available. And we made the decision as a board to go forward with an air show and not have a gap when many people couldn't afford to have that. And it turns out to be a very good decision because we became the first preference for a lot of the acts because they knew we were going to be around and sustainable. A lot of organizations would hire an act and they had to cancel on them, and it left a bad taste in their mouth, frankly. So it was strategic for us, and we had a couple rough years in there from a financial perspective, but we sustained through it, and we came out a lot stronger than everybody else because we didn't lose the momentum, we didn't lose our management company, we still put together a lesser budget but very good quality show, and I think the community rewarded us by coming.
Yeah, unfortunately, some of those things are out of your control. You can't control the weather. And that really predicates how successful you are each and every year. So this year, though, you're guaranteeing blue skies.
I got to figure it out. I made a call. Say that. Yeah, it's going to be good.
That's pretty long distance call.
I'm connected. That's what that's comes down to.
Well, let me ask you, where would you? I know you've traveled all over the world. You've seen air shows all over the world. Where would you put the Veteran Dayton Air Show amongst some of our world competition?
That's a great question. We'll talk globally. I've been to the Paris Air Show, and I didn't know this before I went. I didn't understand exactly what the Paris Air Show was because I equated it to our show. Our show is an entertaining show, and it's really built around showing skill sets that you don't normally see. So fast flying planes, daredevil acts, those kinds of things. So I went to the Paris Air Show. It was in 2006, and it was, I liken it to a runway where you're trying, literally a runway, where somebody's walking down a runway in a fashion environment, and they're trying to sell what they're wearing. So the air show in Paris, the first 3 days of that air show was the major manufacturers selling their planes. And the audience consisted of the buyers for those planes. So you'd have the sheiks and the generals, and it was amazing, and it was a lot different than what I expected an air show to be. On the last day, there was a community or an open air show that had some of what we have, and it was nothing like the Dayton Air Show. Our air show would have blown it away, frankly. But there were things like first-time viewing the A380. I got to see that fly for the first time, and we couldn't accommodate that at the Dayton Airport. But from an international perspective, there's nothing like our military and our very well-trained and conditioned acts that we buy.
Absolutely,
they're amazing, and you'll see those at the air show this year. There's some really good ones. And then there's other areas around the country where similar acts are also performing. We put it together here in Dayton in a way that the performers feel very welcomed here in Dayton. When they're here, by the way, they get to look at some of our aviation assets, like they'll go to the museum, the Air Force Museum, different aviation heritage trail type things that they would look at, including the Wright brothers' home, for example. So it's a destination for the performers, and they like to come here. So we get some of the best in the world coming to Dayton.
So you try to accommodate some of these acts. If they want to go see the Wright Brothers Mansion in Oakwood, you're more than happy to accommodate them. And
We do.
That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
and
we do
so that ambassadorship, I think, is very important. Why they want to come back to Dayton each and every year. You've established that relationship.
Exactly.
All right. So let's stay on a worldview then. As far as the general reputation of the Veteran Dayton Air Show around, some of the world's air shows, when you say, I'm Michael Emoff from the Veteran Dayton Air Show, what kind of response do you get?
It's interesting because they know who we are. They're familiar with Dayton and the Dayton Air Show. It could be anywhere, Canada, for example. We are the kind of organization that has enough experience that those particular areas, including other areas in the U.S., come to our show to learn how to run a show. And we welcome that. So ICAS has training, and we've had a couple actually, Canadian air shows where their management team came down and viewed our show. At the same time, there were 4 or 5 others from the U.S., and we were the hosting city for the training. And they came, and we gave them behind the scenes, and we told them about what Dayton's like and how we run our show. So what that means is that we're a model show for the industry, and we're here in Dayton, which is kind of cool.
Do other shows rely upon the volunteer base that we have? I'm always amazed at the volunteers that we have at the Veteran Dayton Air Show. You see the same people year after year after year. Again, that consistency.
Yeah, I think that there's absolutely no question that having the volunteers, the 2,000 plus volunteers that we have every year, enable us to do our show. Without our volunteers, we couldn't afford to have the prices that we have, which are low prices, $18 for an adult to come to the show. Let me put it into perspective. We've got a $1.3 million budget. We have some money coming in from the individuals who pay to come into the show, and we have some fantastic sponsors. So we're able to give a product that's a $1.3 million product to the marketplace here in Dayton. And by the way, that brings in a literal windfall into the region in terms of spending for that weekend. They'll fill hotels, they'll fill restaurants, all the people who come in from the region, they stay and they go to the Air Force Museum or whatever else that they do. And we have this all happening because of the volunteers. So you'll see volunteers in every aspect of the show from the minute you park to the minute you leave. And they're very helpful, and they do it because they care so much about the area. They're volunteers, unpaid, like the board, all unpaid, and we do it because we care so much about enriching the Dayton environment.
Yeah, the birthplace of aviation. A lot of people take that very, very seriously, and I know you do, and I do, of course, and obviously our volunteers. You talk about the hotel rooms and the accommodations. Do we have any numbers? Maybe I'm catching you off guard.
I think depending on who we have in terms of the acts, like we have the Blue Angels. The Blue Angels are probably the strongest draw because they're a little more rare than the Thunderbirds who we had last year. They're both great, by the way.
Sure.
And when we have our strongest show and we have good weather forecast, it could be a $5 million impact according to the Chamber of Commerce. And so a $5 million impact on a weekend for Dayton is a big deal. And so having that happen here
for a weekend, $5 million, that's awesome.
Think about the trickle down. So
sure.
the hotels, and then the hotels buy more supplies, and so it's the people who serve the hotels, and the restaurants, the same concept, and you've got people buying more gas and all the things that happen when people come to town.
There's a sense to me, Mike, that there is more. You talk about the buy-in from the community and people taking aviation seriously and rightly claiming our birthplace of aviation heritage. Do you feel more that the air show is becoming more and more popular? Because at one time it just seemed like it was somewhat, oh yeah, that's that air show at Vandalia. That it's becoming on the big stage like it should be?
I think I do. And let me tell you a couple of things that I didn't realize until I was in the position I'm in. I felt that everybody in Dayton has seen the air show. And so when I go and I speak and have an opportunity to ask people if they've been to the Dayton Air Show, they will say either no, which I'm surprised by, or yes, but it's been 10 years. And so our challenge at the show is to keep it relevant. So our objective is to have people who want to come see the air show come and see it every year and get a different experience. And so keeping that relevance is extremely challenging for us because the best acts that are out there, they can't cycle through every 5 years. They have to come back every couple of years. But we do have an amazing management company, I have to tell you, and they ensure that what we put out as far as a product is first notch, no question. So you can come every year and get that experience.
How important is it to you, Mike, to make sure that some of our local acts are in the skies too?
I think it's important personally. Sometimes we can't fit them all in, and so there are acts that don't bring us much, I'll call it entertainment value because they're not flying, and we love to have them, and those would be the statics. We have a lot of statics that come for free, and those would be people who bring planes in from places like, in the past, it's been Ohio University and their program. They have brought planes in the past, and it's an opportunity, very local, and to get to meet and talk with the people, which I think is a big benefit, as opposed to oftentimes when you're flying, especially like the Blue Angels, you can get some autographs occasionally, but you're in a crowd to get them, and you're not really understanding or hearing their stories. And so all of the military acts that are statics, some are local from Springfield, for example, and you get to meet the people. And I think that's a big deal. And I think that if I would tell anybody what they should do at an air show, besides watch, for example, the Blue Angels fly, it would be meet these people. They all have great stories to tell, and that's as entertaining as anything that's flying, honestly.
Oh, absolutely.
Really good stuff.
Yeah, the heritage and the history of flying.
And a lot of them are local.
So I know you kind of break down the demographics. What is it usually from year to year? Who's attending the air show?
I believe that it is important to have a very broad demographic mix, and so we market very broadly. So let's talk about location from a demographic perspective, and then let's talk about the type of people. So geographically, we get and market in Columbus and Cincinnati, so south of Dayton and east of Dayton, and we try to bring in those families that otherwise wouldn't come automatically to the show. So we want to populate the show with more people. Then if you look at more of the centric area around Dayton, one of the things that we focus on every Friday before the air show for the last, since I've been there for 15 years, we've had an event to bring inner city kids in to see the show. And so these would be underprivileged children from Dayton, Springfield, and the other surrounding areas. And we want to have an opportunity for those who couldn't afford to see the show to have a special day where they can come in. And so that's always been a part, and the good part, that's the part I feel probably the best about, is that we're able to help people who couldn't afford it. And then what we try to do is we try to get families. So it's we started with family. We started talking about that. And it's about bringing the families in and having the families together. We also oftentimes have had salutes to veterans that have been from World War II on. And so we have had veteran days, so we focus on some elderly people. We try to make it accessible. We have special parking for handicapped, and so that's really important from a broad perspective. But if I would say anything, it would be about family.
And the Special Wish kids, I know you do a benefit for them as well.
On Friday as well. So there's a Friday event, and Friday there's flying practice, and so the Special Wish children are there. We've got our underprivileged children who are there. We've got board members like me out serving lunch. And it's a real fulfilling event for us.
That has to be one of your favorite parts of the show, being able to share this with those who really probably couldn't get to see it.
You look at people who take it for granted, like my son, for example. He's been at the air show every year since he's been born, and he's very privileged to be able to have that situation. When you see the faces on some of these kids who've never seen an airplane up close, and they're watching our military fly, it inspires them.
That's neat.
Honestly, I can tell you that the military does the shows to inspire children to be involved in STEM. Math and science and flying, and hopefully going into the Air Force one day or the Navy and serving the country.
You also have what I think are neat, the little photo pit passes that you can get, that you kind of gets you into the gates a little bit earlier and to get behind the scenes photos. Can you tell us a little bit about that opportunity?
Yeah, a lot of times there are people who want to get up close and do. These are serious air show goers, and those are the ones who want to get there before the gates open, and there's a lot to see, and they want to see it all. And so there's a means to do that. So the photo pit pass is one of those ways to do it. There are other ways too to get close and get more involved, and that would be some of the chalets that we have offer what's called Blue Sky, and then we have the area within the organization that is the pavilion area, and it sells out, but it's a little better experience. So the photo pit pass is about the experience, as are all the other products that we offer to the consumers.
Yeah, the Chalet is a fantastic place if you have an opportunity as far as maybe a business opportunity. That's a great place to entertain your clients and guests.
Yeah, if you're thinking about if the guests are even employees and you want to have a picnic, we probably serve about 10 company picnics at our event.
That's a great
And it's a great give back to the employees. And hosting clients from out of town, there are only a few chalets left, but there's still a couple left, I believe.
All right.
And so now's the time, if you're seeing this episode now and you're thinking about it, don't hesitate. You need to call.
Call now.
Call now. Big flash.
Well, let's talk about
flash.
ticket prices. Generally speaking, I don't know how you keep these ticket prices so low every year. I really don't.
Well, our mission isn't to make money. We're a nonprofit organization, so our mission is to produce a fabulous show, and we spend every bit of money that we have providing the best product for our community. And so we have some sponsors, and Vectren and Kroger are two of our main sponsors, as you mentioned in the opening. Without our sponsors and without our volunteers, we couldn't do a show. So if you're thinking about sponsoring, or if you're thinking about being a volunteer, there's you can go to our website and then you can click in the info for more info and just put a note to us, and we can certainly will follow up. So that's how we keep it low. If we did not have our sponsors, we would not be able to do a show every year.
Now, I understand parking's a little different this year.
Last year we had a rainy Saturday, and those who came out, I'm sure, remember that. We had a lot of parking in grass areas, and we had a lot of those grass areas turned to muddy areas, and we had some we had some towing bills, frankly. We had a lot of towing, 80 or so.
What are you going to do?
Cars got towed. So, so this year we're moving parking around so that we have more stable parking. I'll say that, stable parking. But I do recommend that if you are coming out to the air show, that you might consider taking the RTA. It's a very reasonable solution, and it goes from either downtown or the right stop downtown, or you can go out to the Air Force Museum and catch a bus, and then you can come and go, and the buses continuously run, and you don't have to worry about parking. The party starts on the bus.
That's right.
Let's just say that.
That's no doubt.
Yep.
Well, let's jump into some of the entertainment here.
Yep.
And jumping with the U.S. Navy leapfrogs. I'm excited to see those parachutes.
Yeah, the leapfrogs are going to be pretty awesome, and we were fortunate last year to have the Golden Knights. And that's the Army's jump team. This is the Navy's jump team. Similar in the way that they come down very flamboyantly, and flags and smoke. And it's a great way to open the show, and it's a Navy-heavy show this year, so that's a very good fit.
Yeah, and of course Sean D. Tucker, always a crowd favorite.
He's amazing. He's the guy that doesn't get older, and so I
it's
wish
kind of like you, actually.
Yeah, I've had my days. I just think that we're very fortunate that Oracle, who sponsors Sean's plane, is a big fan of the Dayton region, and they come for the last 3 years, I believe, or 4 years. Sean's been here. If you want to see somebody who is the world-class champion flyer, literally, he's the best in the world at what he does. It gives me chills when I see him. It almost defies everything that you would think aviation is. And so it's worth the price of admission just to see Sean fly.
Oh, he's quite an ambassador for aviation, too. He's incredible.
Yes, very much.
Well, also the U.S. Air Force F-22 Raptor will be in attendance again this year.
Yeah, I think it was 2007 last time we had the Raptor, and again, talk about amazing technology. This technology enables planes to stop literally in midair and turn around. It's amazing, and they'll do that at the show. It's rare. We were frankly surprised that we achieved getting the Raptor this year, but very excited about it. And we even, last time we had it, that was our promotion. It was about the Raptor. And we didn't have a jet team that year, so now we have a jet team and the Raptor. So.
Yeah, very noisy, so bring your earplugs
it's
or
fun.
buy them on ground.
Yeah.
Especially if you have those little kids. And Tora, always a favorite in the crowd.
So that's an act that everybody really loves. It's the bombing. It's loud. It's smoky. It's historic. All of the things that make for a perfect act, and when we have to pay for that act. So that's one that we bring, knowing that there's a cost, but we also know it's going to bring people in.
Right. Yeah. And the C-130 Fat Albert is fun to
Yeah,
watch.
that's a Marine plane, and that comes with the Blue Angels. And if I remember right, I believe that this year it's going to be piloted by a woman.
That's the
So
first,
that'll be
I'm
his first
assuming?
time, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we love to see that. And of course, then the big act, the U.S. Navy Blue Angels coming in, and boy, what a show they put on! I can tell you firsthand.
They surprise with a different act every year. They put it together. They're very precision oriented, very serious, very safe, and amazing. I mean, it's just what you see. It's just totally will blow you away.
Yeah. And to me, a lot of it too is the way that Danny Clisholm and Rob Ryder, the announcers, the way that they tie everything in and they share their experiences, and it's really a seamless show.
They're both storytellers, and we've had them both for a long time. Rob is from Cincinnati, by the way, so
Right,
he's a
yeah.
local guy. And they love Dayton. They wouldn't miss Dayton. I think the day that we don't hire them back is the day they're very mad at me and they won't talk to me again.
Will not return your phone call.
Yeah, that would be a problem. But both Rob and Danny, they just understand it, and this is what they do. And they're sold out every year at the shows that they do. They're everywhere. If you follow Rob or Danny on Facebook, you'll get to see a lot about what's happening in the air show industry.
Well, the gates open at 9 and you close at 6, and basically the acts go up. What did you say? Around 11, probably a good time to be parked in the pavilion.
Yeah,
and watch
11. I mean, a few things happened. Technically, the first primary act started at noon, and there's a lot going on. And again, if you want really to get the experience and have your family get the experience, or if you're a family and you want to take your dad for Father's Day, perfect day to do it.
Right.
But go talk to the pilots that are on the ground and listen to their stories. And they love doing that. That's why they come here.
And they love sharing it.
They do.
They too are ambassadors. So I guess if you need more information, just send them to DaytonAirShow.com.
Yes, that is correct.
That's ticket
That is
prices
correct.
and all that.
And you can get tickets at Kroger.
And
So,
Kroger as well.
Yeah.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, it's coming up June 18th and 19th, the Veteran Dayton Air Show presented by Kroger. Mike Emoff, thanks so much for once again putting together just a stellar show. We're so proud of this show and what it means to this community each and every year. And he's guaranteed us blue skies now.
You got
so
it.
buy
You
your
got it.
tickets
Yeah,
now.
buy them now and come out.
And thank you so much. And thanks for Dayton Access TV for always doing such a great job of covering the show each and every year, too. Well, for Mike Emoff, I'm Dan Edwards from the new Soft Rock 92.9 WGTZ, and thank you so much for joining us here on Greater Dayton Live, and we'll see you at the Air Show.